You're listening to Brave Girls with Tracy Im, where we choose to empower you to be a better leader, mentor, and coach in the world. We'll share stories of people who have achieved great heights by overcoming adversity and rising to the challenge, all while pursuing their passions. These courageous people will inspire you to have faith in yourself and take bold action. Right here with the host of Brave Girls, Tracy Im.
Episode 23, Work with Good People with Cheryl Staurulakis. On this episode of the Brave Girls podcast, I talk with the film goddess, Cheryl Stauraukis, someone that I've come to know over the past few years through my husband's acting circle of friends. She's on fire as an international producer, director, investor, and just general connector in the global film world. You'll want to check out her documentaries and feature films. We talk about the storyline of Lady Ganga, a documentary that Cheryl was instrumental in bringing out into the world that documented Michele Frazier Baldwin's journey to paddleboard over 700 miles down the Ganges River after she was diagnosed with late-stage cervical cancer. The film has jump-started a global movement to eliminate cervical cancer worldwide, and Cheryl is right there in the center of the movement. She also shares her South by Southwest experience and how she manages to have multiple projects up in the air at the same time. I know you'll find our conversation fascinating, especially if you're interested in any of the inner workings of the film industry. Listen in to find out the bravest thing that Cheryl's ever done and how it inspires her today. And if you're interested in being featured as a guest, please drop me a line at tracy@tracym.com and we'll see if you're a good fit. So let's go and hear what Cheryl has to say about why it's so important that you always work with good people.
So welcome to Brave Girls with Tracy M. Tonight we have Cheryl Staurulakis, who is a principal of Arama Filmworks and the Global Film Fund. And I like to refer to Cheryl as the film goddess. So welcome to the show, Cheryl.
Thanks, Tracy. It's great to be on board with you. Or on the air.
On the air, on the mic, right. So Cheryl and I first came across each other when she was the executive producer of the horror comedy, The Nightwatchman, which has gone on to win many, many awards in many festivals, and it's screened all over the world. And so it's distributed through Gravitas Ventures, and it was a great film that was filmed locally in Maryland, and I'm just so excited that Cheryl is on the show. She has another film called Don't Leave Home, which she premiered at South by Southwest in Texas in 2018, that's also going to be released into theaters this fall. So Cheryl's a really busy woman. She's got tons of projects in production. So tell us a little bit, Cheryl, about how you got into the film business.
So it was an introduction by Ken Arnold, who's a producer and lead co-writer for The Nightwatchman. He introduced me to really the film world. My husband and I put together an investment group for The Nightwatchman. We both played an active role in the production of The Nightwatchman. At the same time, Ken introduced me to a documentary filmmaker named Frederic Lumiere. And I've been around the world with Frederic. We've partnered on 2 documentaries on cervical cancer, and our films are now global, and we do a lot of advocacy work with that as well, because when you make a film that has a huge impact, you can't just leave it at that. You know, you go with it, and especially when you believe in it. So
yeah. So I know the one film, Lady Ganga, is that right?
Lady Ganga.
Ganga.
Yeah.
Nilsa's story actually was screened at the UN on World Cancer Day of 2016. So that is huge. And so tell us a little bit about the film, the storyline, and you know, the impact that it's having.
So the film is about an American woman. It's a documentary named Michele Baldwin. She was diagnosed with end stages cervical cancer. She had not had a Pap screening in 10 years. She was a single mother of 3 and just didn't take time for herself like a lot of mothers do. And she was dying. Instead of laying down and dying, she bought a stand-up paddleboard, went to India, broke a world record by stand-up paddleboarding, 700 miles down the River Ganges, and died 10 weeks later. And our director, Frederic Lumiere, met her. She was supposed to be part of the other documentary that he was doing, which was his first documentary on cervical cancer, Someone You Love, the HPV epidemic. And her story, she took a photographer who followed her in a canoe on this essentially 40-day trip. And when he saw the footage and he met Michele, he really felt that this story would stand on its own, and it had this global look to it. So he had to stop filming Someone You Love because Michele's clock was ticking, and he went and followed her essentially through her death. And then we went back in 2015, 4 of us, Mark Hefty, the writer, Frederic, director, and he does everything else. My son, who was graduating from college with essentially a film degree, went to India with me instead of walking in graduation. And we went for a month and we shot Lady Ganga, the additional footage, and we inspired women, which you can see in the film, in a remote village in the Himalayas to go to the cervical cancer screening camp, and we saved lives. And we did a short film. We were supposed to do a feature-length film, but we really felt a short film would have impact because it has now become a tool that healthcare providers use in low and middle income countries to inspire women to go to these screening camps when they're available. And these women could not watch a feature-length film. That would be all about ego to make a feature-length film, which we will do. We're still telling the story with the documentary to do the feature-length documentary. But it's now being dubbed in many different languages. It's in 2 Indian languages. It's getting ready to be dubbed in Spanish and Brazilian. And we have some other languages that we're working to get funding on. In the meantime, about a year and a half ago, Bulova Watches called us. They were at the UN event, and they told us that night they wanted to launch a product. So this past Christmas, they launched a Lady Ganga watch, and 10% of all sales go to the global side of the American Cancer Society. And they are the first brand of any kind to put their name on one of these HPV preventable cancers. And we're getting ready to do a big program in Bermuda that I'm here working on to promote cervical cancer prevention here, and they're working on other events in the United States. But Bulova is a partner of ours now, and they're actually paying for the dubbing in Spanish and Portuguese, and they want to do more languages because, putting on my filmmaker hat now, it costs a lot of money to dub a film. And even though it's a short, you've got to bring in actors, you have to translate the script, it's got to be done in a studio. It's just very involved. It's not subtitling, it's dubbing, because these women in these low and middle income countries, a lot of them are illiterate. So they need to be able to hear the film in their language.
Right. That's so critical. And wow, how fortuitous for Bulova to be at the screening. I mean, that is amazing because they're an international brand. And so they're sold all over the world and they want to increase their market share. And they know that people need that in their native language. So that's fantastic. I mean, you're really, just by saying, I'm going to go do this and I'm going to tell this story and I'm going to do it in a short, knowing that it could become a full feature, a much bigger production, but you started right there where you could, and then now you're just, having that impact out into the world where cervical cancer screening camps may have existed, didn't exist, they need to exist.
Right.
And people need to know about them, but, that's fantastic.
Right. And the women need to understand that they have a potential time bomb inside them. And that's what they don't understand, because Nils's village up in the Himalayas, they really didn't have electricity or running water. And they had women who helped them deliver their babies, but they didn't really understand the mechanics of having a baby. They just know that they have a baby.
Right.
And that's how it is. I mean, we're reading books in the Western world. They don't have that luxury. They're having babies, and then going back to work in their field so they can feed their families. And that's really kind of part of the narrative problem that we have in the U.S. when mothers are trying to pay their bills and keep a roof over their head, and they're neglecting these pap screenings that they should be having. So it's really a narrative that needs to be heard around the world, even in the Western wealthy world, because we have mothers that don't take care of themselves, because a mother is a mother no matter where you are. Big mansion, mud hut, we put our kids first.
Right.
So,
Right. That's amazing. So talk a little bit about I'd like to know about Don't Leave Home. What's Don't Leave Home about?
So Don't Leave Home is a psychological thriller horror genre. Director is Michael Tully, who did Ping Pong Summer. He's an Austin boy, but also grew up in Maryland. And he did Ping Pong Summer, that was shot in Ocean City with Susan Sarandon. And I was connected with the film through Jeff Allard, who was the producer for the Nightwatchman. And I unfortunately did not go to Ireland, where they shot the film. They shot part of it, I believe, in LA, a couple scenes, I believe, and everything else was shot in Ireland. And it ended up being really great. And we got into South by Southwest, premiered it there, and essentially sold it there. And it's really exciting to be able to say I'm now a South by Southwest alum. It's easier now to get our films in front of the programming guys at South by Southwest. And not only was it amazing to have a film there, but it was just an amazing experience. They've done a great job with the festival, and it was great to network with filmmakers from all over the world. Some were more experienced than us, some were not as experienced, and everybody sharing their war stories and contact information. And you build collaborations through that. And so it was a great experience, and it's a really good film. And I hope audiences enjoy it. I think we screened it 6 times, maybe, at South by Southwest, 4 times, I think, 4. And we had full house every screening.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, South by Southwest is amazing. I went to the tech aspect of South by Southwest when I worked for a software development company, and I wanted to go to the film one. And so to have that on your sort of badge to say, I'm a South by Southwest, like film is, I mean, that's like total street cred right there.
Yeah, it's nice to have that on my resume now. So that's great.
Yeah. So I also know that well, you have a ton of stuff in the works with, you say you have 6 films in production. Like, how do you keep all those balls
I
going?
know it's a lot of phone calls and just trying to keep a good notes in the system. But yeah, I mean, we about a year and a half ago. Well, my husband and I formed a very strong relationship with Mitch Altieri and Jeff Allard. Mitch directed The Night Watchman. He had done uh, probably a dozen films previous to The Night Watchman. Very accomplished, is represented by Gersh Agency out of LA, which is a very reputable high-level agency. Jeff Allard did the last 2 Texas Chainsaw Massacre films. Jeff can get a film made, no question. Mitch is very talented writer, director, has a lot of contacts. Both of their names weigh a lot and have great weight in really around the world. And so Leo and I teamed up with them. We decided that we wanted to find directors with projects that we could produce, because we can take a film from beginning, we can find funding through distribution. We have agents that we work with. We have agents who want to work with us. We have distributors that we can call. We've built a great network. And so Starlight was a film, really our first collaboration out of the Night Watchman. And we found a young director who had a script and some money attached to it. And Lee Cummings out of Santa Rosa. Mitch had known him for a few years, and we put together a film. A client of my husband's who manages an independent telephone company out in Western Kentucky approached us and said, Kentucky has this amazing film incentive program. We want you to make your next film there. So Mitch and Jeff and I met in Nashville, drove out to Western Kentucky, met with the economic development people and my husband's client, and we shot a film, Starlight, last October, November, and shooting in a small town, population 15,000. It was phenomenal, and Kentucky will be giving us a check for about 30% of everything that we spent there. And so we'll be able to put money back in our investors' pockets. And I think we have a really great psychological thriller horror genre. Our friends at Fantasia, which is the largest genre film festival in North America, they're up in Montreal. They reached out to us. They wanted to look at it for the festival that's actually going on in about 2 weeks. And but we're just not far enough along with it. But we're already getting interest in it, and so that is really our first collaboration. And we have a Bermuda production that's in script right now. We're getting ready to go into a second draft of the script. We've got a young writer who I think is 26 years old, maybe, out of the San Francisco area, that's amazingly talented, and we gave him some ideas of what we wanted. Mitch has been working with him, and we got a really great treatment, exactly what we wanted, because you also have to write within a budget. So he's learning about that.
Yeah,
So,
well, I mean,
it's great to be creative, but you know,
it's a business.
Yeah, we know what we want to spend, and so that's where Mitch has really been helping us, because Mitch really knows how to write a script that fits within a certain budget. He understands all the business components that go along with that.
Right, right. And, you know, it is a business. And I think sometimes people forget that. But if you stick to sort of your core business principles of like being smart about like meeting with the economic development people who are going to have, you know, tax incentives to bring you there because they want that economic development of I mean, when a film comes to town for production, I mean, it's like people got to eat, people got to have places to sleep, they got to have things to do. And so it does pumps money into the economy. And especially if it's a small town, that's huge.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was an amazing experience, and we would, with the right script, we would go back there in a heartbeat, and they would gladly welcome us back. I think we spent about $350,000 there in 3 weeks in their 15,000 population community. And we trained people there's a lot of film going on in Kentucky, but it's in the eastern side in Louisville. And but we encouraged these people and connected them with other filmmakers and film groups within Kentucky. And one of the young girls actually is now living with one of our leads from the film in LA and is taking acting classes.
There you go. You're just planting seeds everywhere, Cheryl.
It's, moving people forward is what we want.
Yeah. Well, and you're moving people forward with your films by education and inspiration and then entertainment. Like you've got all those aspects of the different types of genres of the films that you're investing in and you're taking from concept to release, right? And so you're shepherding up through the pipeline and finding all the right people. You're like this giant matchmaker as you're, but you want a quality product at the end. So in your mind how much you can afford for what you want to get.
Yeah, because I'm spending other people's money. So, and those people I know. So I am very careful about spending this money. And Jeff and I make a really good team producing. We pretty much did everything for Starlight to keep costs down. I had a UPM that bailed out at me like the day before production, and that kind of hurt me a little bit with, a lot of extra work, but we just roll up our sleeves and we run with it.
Right.
So,
figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Because it's like life. You're going to get those curveballs.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just do it, and it ended up being great the way it worked out. So
yeah, well, and it seems like you've really found your passion. Like you've really kind of found your niche in the world. And I know you had like a whole career before you even came into this film goddess role that you're in. And so how did that kind of play into like your background into what you're bringing forward into the film?
So prior to raising 3 sons, I worked in DC, and I did association management and event planning. And that really has formed my ability to produce, because it's association management is, it's normally a nonprofit, and you have to stick to a budget, and you're fundraising, and you're managing members, and all of that. And then the event management is, handling all the moving parts of being able to organize a production. So my previous career, really helped with that. And then, the politics of raising children. trying to keep everybody happy and disciplined when you have to, and all of that is really my people skills, I think, with being able to work with everyone on set, because Nightwatchman, we had on days we would have 100 that we were working with, and on Starlight in Kentucky, we essentially had about 40 people mostly from LA. We had Chester and Sam, who were art department for the Nightwatchman. We brought them to Kentucky because they're absolutely phenomenal. And then Jeff Wilhelm from Maryland and Mascot Dan were stuntmen that we brought, stunt coordinators that we brought from Maryland, but everybody else was pretty much from LA, and we brought them all to this very small town, very unlike what they were used to. So it was, our go-to restaurant was Applebee's, because their bar stayed open later than anyone else. But, it was just different. And so you wanted to make everybody comfortable. We had a college. We used their dorms. That's where all of our crew stayed. So, it wasn't a hotel. It was a dorm. But Chester and Sam were like the ambassadors there, and they had a bonfire every night. And, it was just, we ended up being a really great family. And we had a lot of new crew members, department heads, who this was our first time working together. And they were very, very talented. We really lucked out. So.
Yeah, I would think that when you go on set, I mean, I've never been on set, but when you go on set, you're working long days, you've got the lighting set up, you've got the makeup, you've got to do the shoot, take one, take two, take three, and you don't want to break everything down because you've got so much invested in the setup, right? And so you have a compressed schedule that you're trying to work towards to get the raw footage done, never mind all the editing and everything that you do when you're not paying the SAG actors, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, half the shoot, it was a 3-week shoot, and half the shoot, we worked 12-hour days, 6 days a week. And then the second half of the shoot, we worked nights because we needed a lot of the film took place at night. And so we shot all night long, and it was very cold, and we had street scenes where we're in the middle of, just on a street. And so I found a hardware store that was on the street, and I was asked them if they would keep the store open all night for us. And they did. They essentially gave me the keys and said, "See you in the morning." And we had catering that came in, and a local RV company gave me a 40-foot RV and a driver, and we did makeup and wardrobe and had the actors in there. And small town love is what we got from Mayfield, Kentucky. So yeah, there are a lot of moving parts, and people get tired. I got tired, and you just have to be the cheerleader. So Jeff Aller
Right.
and I are good cheerleaders, but we also, you want to work with good people. So we had no drama on this set at all. So it was, and I got thank you cards from a lot of our crew. That was very sweet, and we will definitely work with people with this group again.
Right. Yeah, well, and relationships are so important, and you see what people are made of when they're working 12 and 16-hour days and through the night and
Yeah.
in the cold, and so that's That's great that you're really seeing people for who they are. And then, okay, well, I want to do business with this person again, and I want to continue. Oh, they were on this project. I want to bring them forward. Oh, they're great at what they do. They're going to really fit in, and they know what we're thinking when we're producing. So
Right.
that's really good. That's good. So, so my finale question is always, what's the bravest thing that you've ever done, and how does it inspire you today?
So I think the bravest thing I ever did was go on this trip to India. Like I said, I took my youngest son, who was 22 at the time. It was 4 of us that were going for the first time. We knew where we were going, but we really weren't on proper visas because we didn't have the time to get the proper visas. We were only going to do something that benefited the country of India. It wasn't anything negative. My travel agent was would not book rooms where we wanted to stay because she said that, it was dangerous and it wasn't, she just couldn't do it. So she put us in a hotel on the outskirts of where we needed to be. And then we found a hotel down by the river. But I mean, it was uncharted waters. And, when you're making documentary film, you're filming as it's happening. It's not a controlled environment, and it's really guerrilla filmmaking. And we were in these rickety boats on the Ganges River, which is the most polluted river in the world, and there are dead bodies floating by. And we were in Varanasi, where they do the open pyre funerals, and it's 116 degrees and roaches are crawling across you. And after the first one crawls across you, you're like, it doesn't matter anymore. And I had the most inspiring time. And we went up to the Himalayas, to really a militarized zone. It's contested territory between India and Pakistan. So something can happen at any moment. We really didn't know what we were getting into up there, but there was a cervical cancer screening camp going on there. We were invited up, and it was the most inspiring and amazing adventure that I had ever had. But it was the unknowing. It was a trip like I had never been on before. It was very much out of my comfort zone, but I became very comfortable there immediately. And the people were beautiful. The places that we stayed, the restaurants that we went to, our guides that we had who acted as translators were just amazing. And I want to go back to Ladakh, India, up in the Himalayas, to help with this Himalayan women's health project again, and just do whatever I can do to help them move women through this this camp. And I haven't done that yet because I've had projects going on, but I want to do that in the near future. So that's probably the most what did you say?
The bravest thing.
The bravest thing.
Well, I think it took courage. I mean, and but look at the end result. And the end product and the impact that that's having on so many. And so it was worth it.
It was worth it. It was worth it. And Lady Ganga, we did a Kickstarter campaign and raised $182,000 to make the film. And then with doing that, we thought to ourselves, if we had had a nonprofit, we probably could have raised even more money. And so Frederic Lumiere, who I've done the documentaries with, and my husband, Leah, we launched a nonprofit called Global Film Fund. And Global Film Fund acts as a fiscal sponsor for films that have an impact on the world. And it can be a narrative film as well as a documentary. I think we have 6 or 7 films now. So when films want to raise funds, we run it through Global Film Fund so that they can have that nonprofit status. We run it through Global Film Fund.
Right.
So donors can get that nonprofit charity donation letter. And I'm hoping to build up an endowment so that we can fund films. I was invited to attend Hot Docs in Toronto this past May as a member of the Bermuda delegation, and I saw so many films there that needed funding, and I would have given money to all of them if I had had the funds to be able to do that. But there are so many projects out there. I've seen with our 2 projects the true power of film, and I really want to try to keep that going. And so we want to build up an endowment so that we can go to Hot Docs every year with funds.
Right. No, I think that's great. I think that's great. And, as you do one thing, it leads to another. You learn a lesson, then you do the next thing you've implemented, then you see something else. So like you're seeing what's on the horizon from starting and just getting more and more into it and how it all works. So I just want to thank you for being on Brave Girls with Tracy M. And thank you for what you're doing in the world with all of your films and all of the impact, like you say, a film can have and telling these narratives through film. So I'm so thrilled that I'm in the circle with the film goddess, Cheryl.
Well, thank you, Tracy.
But this is great. This is great. And I will put everything in the show notes about your films and about your companies and your organizations. And if people want to get in touch with you through your social media as well. So thank you so much for being on the show. And I wish you the best of luck with all of your productions.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Tracy. Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Brave Girls with Tracy M. as much as I did creating it. Each show is produced with you, the listener, in mind, as you look for inspiration and motivation from other brave souls as you pursue your desires. I'd love to hear your feedback, so please leave me a review on iTunes. I read every one. And check out my website, tracym.com, for more free resources. You can also join my list and sign up for my newsletter right from the homepage. Until next time, stay strong, believe in your dreams, and go do something brave.
We appreciate you joining us for this episode of Brave Girls with Tracy M. and hope that you enjoyed the show. For more information about today's episode, as well as additional free resources to help you achieve greatness in your life, visit tracym.com and sign up for our mailing list. Until next time, dream big, believe in yourself, and let your brilliance shine as only you can do.